Not every royal stayed loyal to their bloodline. Some turned against the very families that raised them. A crown prince dragged into court by his own relatives, exposing secrets the palace tried to hide. A royal who published a memoir that revealed scandals never meant to be public. And a princess who fought her family in a bitter inheritance battle that split a dynasty. These weren't small quarrels, they were betrayals that shook kingdoms. So which royals openly rebelled? Here are 12 royals who have turned against their own families. At number 12, we have Infant Christina of Spain. She became the center of an unprecedented royal scandal, which made her, at the end, to go against her family completely. Her actions put her at odds with them in the public eye. According to Al Jazeera in 2016, Christina stood trial on financial mismatch charges related to a case involving her husband. She became the first Spanish royal in modern memory to be an imposter defendant. The spectacle severely damaged the royal family's reputation. King Felipe, striving to restore trust after his father Juan Carlos' controversies, pointedly distanced the crown from Christina. He stripped his sister of her title, Duchess of Palma, in 2015, all while she waited her trial. He also pointedly did not include Christina in any official duties after 2011 and notably excluded her from attending his own 2014 enthronement ceremony behind closed doors. Philippe reportedly urged Christina to renounce her dynastic rights to safeguard the monarchy's image. Christina, however, resisted. According to Spanish press, she took her sidelining as a personal affront and condemnation ahead of trial, and has resisted serving her symbolic ties to the throne. In other words, despite mounting public and internal pressure, Christina refused to voluntarily renounce her place in line of succession. The quiet defiance, prioritizing her legal defense and her husband over the monarchy's reputation, was effectively a turn against family expectations. At number 11, we have Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. He openly broke ranks with the British royal family after stepping back from royal duties in 2020. In a controversial 2021 TV interview with Oprah Winfrey, Harry said he felt trapped in royal life and expressed compassion for his father Charles and brother William, whom he described as similarly trapped in their situations. This had made him seemingly turn against his family, and he revealed deep rifts. For instance, he shared that at one point Prince Charles stopped taking his calls, and Harry admitted, quote, "I feel really let down by his father's failure to support him, given Charles had experienced similar pressures with Diana." According to People magazine, Harry also described a strained bond with William, saying, "We are on different paths." In early 2023, Harry's memoir, Spare, further detailed this family's conflict. He recounted in 2019 a confrontation in which William allegedly called Meghan difficult and rude. Harry wrote that William later apologized but urged Harry not to tell Meghan of the physical altercation that went along with that. Spare also discusses Harry's resentment of being the spare to William's heir. The book and interviews reveal Harry's frustration with what he saw as the royal family's failure to protect him and his wife from hostile press and internal pressures. He criticized the, quote, "never complain, never explain" ethos of the royal family. Next, we have Princess Martha Louise in Norway. She has openly flouted royal convention, causing friction in public statements from the palace about her choices. In recent years, Martha Louise, fourth in line to Norway's throne, quite close to the top, pursued a very alternative path, branding herself as a spiritual healer who can communicate with angels. This raised eyebrows, but real tensions emerged with her relationship to American self-proclaimed shaman Durek Verrett, which made her seemingly turn against her family as she wanted to marry him. According to The Guardian, in 2019, the princess agreed to stop using her title for commercial ventures. Then, in November 2022, Martha Louise took a dramatic step in the relinquishing of her official royal duties in order to create a clearer dividing line between her private activities and the crown. The palace announced she would no longer serve as a patron to organizations and would not represent the royal house, effectively curtailing her royal role. It's widely understood that this move was more due to the controversies swirling around her fiancé's unscientific health claims and public discomfort in Norway. Martha Louise admitted in a statement combining her beliefs with royal duties had become untenable. Significantly, the palace statement included a pointed note affirming the royal support for evidence-based medicine and implicit rebuke of the couple's alternative views. Martha Louise's response was pointed. She acknowledged the importance of science while also believing in a warm hand, a crystal, as compliments. palace. The next three royals pushed defiance even further. One was an eternal rebel who always troubled the royal family. One put the country into a constitutional crisis, and one had to fight back because his grandmother stripped off his royal title. At number 9, we have Prince Laurent of Belgium. The younger brother of Belgium's King Philippe, Laurent has earned a reputation as the monarchy's outspoken rebel, often publicly venting grievances against his own family and the government that funds him. Frequently in trouble for breaching protocol or making publicly political missteps, Laurent has repeatedly claimed he is unfairly treated. In 2011, after being snubbed from royal duties, Laurent gave a candid interview suggesting the palace was, quote, trying to ostracize him, and confessed, I sometimes feel like I'm treated as the family's black sheep. In 2018, a major clash came when Laurent met with Chinese officials without government approval. It's the one instance when he turned against his own family, and according to People magazine, Parliament docked 15% of his state allowance as punishment. An angry Laurent wrote a fiery letter to the Prime Minister complaining of his life of injustices and implying the royal household had failed to defend him in that moment. He even hinted at suing the government over his treatment, an unheard of step for a Belgian royal. In one outburst, Laurent compared his situation to being treated like a dog on a leash. He has also lamented that his surname is effectively bad for any independent career, yet the family gives him no meaningful role. He has publicly contradicted the palace line when he's confirmed to the media that former King Albert II was in poor health, news the palace had withheld on purpose. Next, we have Princess Irene of the Netherlands. She shook the very foundation of the Dutch royal family in the 1960s by defying her family's wishes and plunging the monarchy into a constitutional crisis. In 1964, Irene, then just 24, secretly converted from Protestantism to Roman Catholicism, a stunning move in a country where Catholics could not be monarchs. Even more explosively, she fell in love with Prince Carlos Hugo of Bourbon-Parma, a claimant to the Spanish throne and a Catholic himself as well. Without informing her parents, Irene flew to Madrid to be with Carlos Hugo. When the news leaked, a firestorm erupted, and according to court jeweler, the prospect of a Dutch princess marrying a Catholic aristocrat, let alone one involved in Spain's Carlist political movement, caused public uproar and government alarm. The engagement was announced over the Dutch government's objections, and Parliament was bypassed as Irene renounced her succession rights to proceed with the marriage. Queen Juliana, upset and under pressure, refused to attend the wedding. In April 1964, Irene married Carlos Hugo in a lavish Catholic ceremony in Rome with no member of her family even present. This highly unusual estrangement played out in the headlines across Europe. Many Dutch felt Irene was betrayed and betrayed her duties. Protest and a religious outcry have ensued since. The government has feared her marriage could drag the Netherlands into Spanish issues. Ultimately, Irene's choices removed her from the line of succession. At number 7, we have Prince Nikolai of Denmark. Prince Nikolai of Denmark, the eldest grandchild of Queen Margaret through her son of Prince Joachim, seldom gave interviews until 2022, when his grandmother's decision to strip him of his title prompted him to voice hurt and confusion. At 23, Nikolai had been prince since birth, a public figure who had even walked in fashion shows. The shock that he and his siblings would cease to be a princess and princes as of January 2023 blindsided him completely. In an interview with Danish daily Ekstrabladet, Nikolai confessed, "I'm shocked and confused. I'm very sad to be stripped of the title." He said the decision hits even harder now that it's been published, revealing that he'd only been told a week prior. Nikolai echoed his parents' sentiments that the children had felt wronged. "We are, as my parents have stated, are in shock. Why must it happen like this?" These words hit from a young royal towards the beloved queen were extraordinary in Denmark. Nikolai also noted he'd missed being prince since he'd been all his life and admitted that he can't understand why the change was necessary. His remarks underlined that the move was not mutually agreed upon, but an imposed measure that left personal wounds. Prince Nikolai's polite yet poignant protest did win public sympathy, and many Danes criticized the Queen's timing and handling. Up ahead are three royals whose rebellion shook dynasties. One fought against the son, another heckled the king for legitimacy, and one openly rebuked his own cousins. Next, we have Prince Ernst of Hanover. The head of the ancient house of Hanover, Prince Ernst Sr., has been embroiled in a bitter public feud, not with the public or with the media, but with his own son. Ernst Sr., a German prince and the estranged husband of Princess Caroline of Monaco, shocked royal watchers in 2017 by opposing his namesake's son's wedding and taking a series of legal actions against against him. The dispute centered on the family's properties and patrimony. In mid-2000s, Ernst August Sr. transferred several ancestral estates to his son Prince Ernst August Jr., but relations soured dramatically. By 2017, the senior prince publicly declared that he was withdrawing that consent and did not attend his son's marriage, citing serious disagreement over how his son was managing the family's assets. Ernst August Sr. accused his heir of gross ingratitude and filed lawsuits demanding the return of properties, alleging his son's stewardship put heritage at risk. The quarrel became very public in Germany and Australian courts, and in one case, Ernst Sr. sought to rescind the gift of substantial forced domain, claiming his son failed to care for his health and infringed conditions of transfer. Separately, the elder prince, known for his eccentric and volatile behavior, was convicted in 2021 of creating nuisance in public during a drunken incident, further straining the family. Throughout, father and son lobbed accusations. At number 5, we have Prince Paul of Romania. He spent decades effectively battling Romania, officially recognizing the royal family. Paul is the illegitimate grandson of Karl II. After communism fell, Paul sought acknowledgement as the rightful descendant, directly challenging his uncle, the late King Michael I, and Michael's family. He heckled King Michael through the courts for 21 years, seeking legitimacy. According to Balkan's site in 1995, the Romanian court recognized Karl II's first marriage, a decision King Michael vehemently opposed. Paul then styled himself Prince of Hohenzollern Romania and accused King Michael of illegally excluding him from the succession. This sparked a dynastic feud. Michael publicly cut all contact and reportedly viewed Paul as an interloper. Paul didn't relent. He was outspoken in the media and at times accusing Michael's side of conspiring to keep him out. In 2012, a court initially ruled in Paul's favor, calling him an illegitimate son. Michael appealed and had the ruling overturned, prompting Paul to lambast the decision as unjust. The animosities, such as that in 2011, King Michael took the dramatic step of expelling Paul from the royal line via a new family statute, even though the monarch is defunct. Paul fired back in a press statement, arguing that Michael had no authority since the throne no longer exists, a direct affront to Michael's status. Next, we have Prince Vittorio Emanuele of Savoy. He has waged a very public feud against his own cousins for decades over claims to the defunct throne. The Savoy dynasty was exiled after 1945, but when male heirs were finally allowed back into Italy in 2002, family tensions quickly resurfaced. Vittorio Emanuele, the only son of Italy's last king, Umberto II, has long insisted he alone is the rightful head of the house. This claim was bitterly disputed by Prince Amadeo, Duke of Aosta, a cousin in a junior Savoy branch who has also claimed the headship. The rivalry boiled over spectacularly in 2004 at the wedding of the future King Philip VI of Spain. At a royal dinner over the eve of the wedding, Vittorio and Amadeo got into a heated argument about their claims. Accounts say Vittorio mistreated Amadeo twice on the steps of the Spanish royal palace, causing problems for him until former Queen Anne Marie of Greece caught Amadeo. According to ABC, Spain's King Juan Carlos, appalled by the brawl during his son's own wedding festivities, reportedly shouted, "Nunca más," or "never again," and banned Vittorio from future events. The altercation made headlines and brought Savoy family's feud into the public in full view. In the years since, the two branches continued snipping at each other. The feud even extended to lawsuits. Both factions jointly sued the Italian state for the return of the crown jewels. The final three royals didn't just challenge tradition. One openly challenged the sitting queen, another started a family feud, and the last one rivaled claims that still echo today. At number 3, we have Princess Marie Chantal of Greece. Though a member of the Greece's deposed royal family by marriage, Marie Chantal made waves in 2018 by publicly criticizing Spain's Queen Letizia, effectively siding against an in-law in a very visible royal spat. Marie Chantal, wife of Crown Prince Pavlos of Greece, is the niece-in-law of Spain's former Queen Sofia. At Easter Mass in 2018, cameras captured an awkward scene. Queen Letizia of Spain appeared to block Queen Sofia from taking a photo with her granddaughters, prompting visible tension. According to Hello magazine, the footage went viral. Marie Chantal took to Twitter at the time in swift defense of Sofia. In a blunt tweet that ricocheted through European media, she wrote, quote, "This is so awful. It makes me feel so angry. No grandmother deserves that type of treatment." Wow, Letizia has shown her true colors. Coming from a fellow royal, this is a standing and public rebuke of Letizia. Spain's press and the public erupted, many agreeing with Marie Chantal's sentiment. Her tweet effectively cast Spain's sitting queen as a villain, and her phrase "true colors" was widely quoted as a stinging condemnation. The incident reportedly infuriated the Spanish royals and embarrassed Letizia, who days later seen conciliatorily holding Sophia's hand for cameras. Marie Chantal, however, stood by her reaction at first, later only slightly rowing it back by saying emotions got the better of her. Next, we have Grand Duchess Maria Vladimirovna, claimant to the long-abolished Russian throne, has for years been locked in a public war of words with other Romanov relatives over legitimacy. As the self-declared head of the imperial house of the Romanovs, Maria insisted that she is the rightful heir of Russian emperors. However, a group of other Romanov descendants organized as the Romanov Family Association under the late Prince Nicholas Romanov and others fervently denies those claims. The feud hinges on complex dynastic rules. Maria's critics point out that her father's marriage was morganatic, which they argued disqualifies her branch. Maria's camp, in turn, dismisses the association as lacking lawful succession rights. This bad blood has spilled into the press. In 2015, the Moscow Times noted that each of the two groups fervently denies the legitimacy of the other, calling it a family feud rooted in pride and inheritance. Indeed, part of Maria's drive to be formally recognized in Russia, lobbying Russian governments for acknowledgement as head of the historical institution, is widely seen as an attempt to finally, quote, obtain a license proving that they are the only true Romanovs. One analyst has remarked her late cousin Nicholas once publicly dismissed Maria's claims, and some relatives even contest her use of titles. In turn, Maria pointedly did not invite many of them to her son George 2021's high-profile wedding in St. Petersburg, illustrating the rift. And at number 1, we have Prince Jean d'Orleans, the Count of Paris. Even in non-reigning royal families, infighting can spill into the public. Prince Jean d'Orleans, head of the d'Orleans branch of France's former royal family, has been embroiled in a heated feud with his distant cousin Louis Alphonse de Bourbon over who is the true pretender to the France's defunct throne. After the death of Jean's father Henry in 2019, Jean expected to be regarded as the head of the House of France. Indeed, he asserted that succession follows very precise rules set by the Orleans ancestors. However, Louis Alphonse, a Spanish-born Bourbon who styles himself of Duke of Anjou, likewise claims to be the rightful heir of King Louis XIV. The rivalry is intense and not at all genteel. According to Cut magazine, the Orleans argued that Louis' line lost its French rights when Louis XIV's grandson became King of Spain in 1700 after renouncing the French throne. Louis' side conversely points to his direct descent from Louis XIV as trumping any of Orleans' pedigree. Jean d'Orleans has openly disparaged Louis' pretensions, and in 2016, in an interview, Jean pointedly referred to his Louis as a Spanish prince and suggested his supporters were misguided. Upon his father's death, Jean's team issued press releases calling him the head of the house and implies Louis was excluded by long-standing laws, effectively telling Louis to step aside. With this, we end today's video. We'll be back short with a new one. Until then, happy watching and do subscribe to our channel if you still haven't.